What is up, Janksters? It's your boy Graham, also known as Hamhawks42 on the internet, and today I want to take another look at a card from Commander Legends 2 Electric Boogaloo Battle for Baldur's Gate. So today we are going to be looking at Balor. It is a demon that is freaking cool in my opinion, and it really ought to be because it is a mythic rare in the set. So if you are drafting this this set, which it is designed to be drafted, this is a bomb that you probably want to take. Okay, spoiler warning, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. If you are just playing Commander, though, and you want to possibly pick this up as a single for one of your decks, what deck do you want it in? Well, let's take a look. So Balor is a 5/5 flyer for 3 red with flying. Whenever Balor attacks or dies, it is not an end of the battlefield trigger, it is a death trigger. I think that's cool. It's a twist on kind of the old Titan mechanic. Anyway, choose one or more. You can choose any number of these. You have to choose one though, which is interesting. Anyway, each mode must target a different player, so you can't just dogpile all these modes on one player. But what modes do we have, you ask? Okay, 1, target opponent draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. Yes, I'm going to make you operate as though you have Tybalt Fiendblooded in play. Haha, deal with it. Then, target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact. Doesn't touch treasure, doesn't touch blood. No. We're going for the good stuff. We're going for your mana rocks. We're going for your soul rings. Oh yeah, we're targeting those. Although it's not necessarily targeted. So you don't want to target. This isn't a mode you want to send to somebody who has like 7 or 8 artifacts in play. This is what you want to send this to the one person who has the 1 soul ring. You know, that's where you want to target this mode. But anyway, there's also one more mode. There are 3 modes on this beast. The last one being Balor deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of cards in their hand. We all know that player who loves having their spell book or their thought vessel online or their reliquary tower and just sitting with 15, 16 cards in their hand. And Balor wants to punish that player really frickin' hard, and we get an opportunity to do so. I feel like I can say that with this grin on my face because it's not uncommon that I am that player in certain pods, and I'm going to be taking a Balor blast directly to the face when I'm playing those decks, and I know it. I see it coming. So that is actually very, very cool because I love all 3 of these modes. I think they're all very interesting. The first one, forcing somebody to draw 3 cards and then discard 3 cards at random. You do give them an opportunity to possibly spin into their win condition, but spin into like exactly what they need in that moment. But you also have a distinct possibility of stripping that thing out of their hand if it's already there. The best time to use that mode, in my opinion, is right after somebody tutors. If somebody uses a tutor, and the cool part is because it has them draw the cards first, even if they use an effect like a vampiric tutor that puts the card on top of their library, this disrupts that, especially if they only have a few cards in their hand. If they've got 2 cards in hand and they vampiric tutor something to the top, you have them draw 3 cards. They now have 5 cards in their hand, one of which is the card they tutored for and they really, really need, and they have a 3 in 5 chance of dumping that card. That's delightful. I love that. I think those are dice I want to roll. Those are odds I want to play, and those are cool That's a cool interaction, a cool motive that you can get in Commander specifically. This also happens every time Balor attacks or every time Balor dies. Now I do say every time Balor dies because we're working with red here, which oftentimes it's not uncommon to see red paired with colors like white or black that have the opportunity to bring creatures back from the graveyard or loop them in certain ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if Balor is sacrificed to something and immediately brought back to another effect. Those types of loops are things we will see. Also, red has multiple combat steps as one of its mechanical potentials. So you could actually attack with Balor multiple times in a single turn and get all of these triggers in that regard. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely beautiful stuff. I think this card is great. So, first mode, you want to go after somebody who just tutored. That's huge. Also, if you get enough triggers, you could theoretically mill someone out that way. So if somebody has been drawing cards aggressively, you may want to target them with that mode just to put the screws to their library. That could be delightful. Additionally, if this is in a Rakdos kind of situation where you might have Ob Nixilis the Hate Twisted or other Underworld Dreams, those cards specifically state whenever a player draws a card, they take 1 damage. So this is a way to add some pressure into that mode too. So that's great. And this is just the first mode that we're talking about, and it has all of these applications already. Second mode, target opponent sacrifices a non-target artifact. Mana rocks are everywhere in EDH. This looks to me like it's designed to target those mana rocks. Because if your opponent has a dozen treasure tokens, this ability doesn't care. But if your opponent is sitting on 1 Great Henge, and that's the only artifact they have, then all of a sudden you can pick that off and do a great job. If you do have an opponent who has a lot of artifacts in play, but they are key to the strategy of what they're doing, this is a way, again, because you're going to be getting so many triggers off of this if you're capable of mixing it with multiple combat steps or getting multiple death triggers, because there are also cards that do give you multiple death triggers. So that's a thing that we could add to this as well. If you're able to maximize the impact of Balor, then you really eat away your affinity players, the affinity player at the pod, the Brea player at the pod who has a ton of artifacts. You could really devastate their board state if you're capable of targeting them every single time you hit that mode. So that's nice. That could be cool. Yeah, the first couple, they're probably going to be like, whatever, I got plenty of these lying around. After you've hit them 5 or 6 times, they'll be singing a different tune, and they'll be very eager to get Balor off the field. But even then, if they are successful in killing Balor, you get to hit them 1 more time, which is delightful. I love that. And then the final mode, they deal damage to target opponent equal to the number of cards in their hand. This is a mode that you are going to want to take advantage of pretty much every single time you use this, if the politics of the table are appropriate. And that is the biggest issue that I see with Balor, the biggest point that I want to make with Balor. This is a very, very powerful card. Commander is a format where you need to deploy your threats smartly. You need to be very deliberate and very careful about how you deploy your threats out, because if you just windmill slam this on turn 5, you make a statement. You tell all 3 of your opponents, I am going to win by brute force destroying all of you right now. And that is a wonderful way to have all 3 players turn their focus directly at you and have you get knocked out of the game first. Because 3 players are drawing 3 cards. They have a starting life total of 120 between all of them, because we started 40 in EDH, and they just have so many, and they all have significantly more cards available to them. So if 3 players are going after 1 player, that 1 player is probably going to be sunken. Balor is good, but Balor is not good enough to handle that kind of heat, especially because we're looking at a card that can be exiled perfectly fine. There are to no effect. It's a 5-drop that you could throw out as early as turn 3 pretty comfortably, or I mean, in a crazy magical situation where you've got soul rings and mana crypts and whatnot, you could be looking at turn 2 Balor. It's not impossible in Commander, because it's Commander. I have no doubt there are ways to get it out on turn 1. I'm not even going to stress myself too much about that stuff, but in any event, the card is powerful, but you need to read the room in Commander. You need to be aware of what your opponents are up to, and if you do deploy Balor at your table, unless it is late in the game and the goal is to just finish things off, because in that situation, Balor is a killer finisher. It's a great way to deal with 3 players and attack them on different axes. You can hit each one of them wherever it hurts the most for them, which is really, really cool. And again, why this pulls so much heat. So I would be very, very careful. But if you do decide that it makes sense in a given game of Commander to play Balor early, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you take advantage of your gift of gab, if you will, and talk to your opponents and let them know your plans with Balor. Because if you specifically state, okay, guys, I promise or my plan, what I'm going to do with this card, the first time I attack, I'm going to make so-and-so discard, or I'm going to go after that Great Henge. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just gonna do that unless somebody wants the first mode. If somebody wants to draw 3, I mean, do like a weird hand juggling thing and maybe hit something nice. If somebody wants that, give it to them. You know, because then all of a sudden you are appeasing your opponents, which early on in a game of Commander, that can be a good thing. So I like Balor a lot. I think the design in this card is just sick. It is capable of devastating 3 players at once, and on top of that, we've been talking about the ability this entire time. It's also a 5/5 flyer for 5. So it's a good blocker, and it can get in for some good aggressive damage as well. So I feel like the card is very strong in a lot of contexts, and I like that. But again, this makes a statement. It paints a target on your back, so be very, very careful. So thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you as we kind of take this look. Also, I mean, it's worth noting that in D&D, Balor are gigantic demons that do explode when they die. So the fact that that this triggers upon death, I think is kind of cool and very flavorful. So I think that's neat. In any event, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. I will catch you on the next one. And in the meantime, stay good to each other. And yeah, and if you wouldn't mind actually hitting that like and subscribe button, I'd appreciate it very, very much. All right, have a good one.